Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Bobby with Tech360.tv, and I'm back with a lens review this time. And I recently went to a trip to Portugal and Spain. If you followed me on Instagram at Tonelli, you probably saw some photos out there. And I thought I'm there for personal, but at the same time, let's throw some work in. Let's try some cameras, some lenses, how people would normally use them when they travel to see different parts of the world, to share with their friends and family on social media. So Shriro Imaging here in Singapore was very kind to loan me the new Zeiss Batis 40mm f2, and Sony Singapore was kind enough to loan me the Sony A7RIII for this trip. And I also got the Batis 2.8mm as well from Shriro. So I had two lenses to test, as well as the camera. Now the camera we've already done a review on, so you can watch that review. We'll put a link in our description below. But I felt the 40mm was a very interesting lens to try out for Sony because Sony doesn't really have a prime in that range. You know, they have the 85 1.4, they've got a lot of zooms, 12 to 24, 1635, 24 1.4, 7200, all these different zooms, but they don't have in that 35 to 50 range. And I think Zeiss really saw an opening there, and this 40mm really captures that focal length that a lot of people want, especially if they want a prime. Now 40mm is an interesting focal length because you still have that a little bit of wide angle like that 35, but slightly, you know, slightly less. And you're not as close to a 50, but you still have a little bit of that range to still get portraiture out of your lens. And I think especially for walking around the streets of Portugal and Spain, and these streets are very narrow, you can't, sometimes a 50 might be a bit tough. 85 is really hard to play with, but a 40 is that kind of that sweet spot, and it's an f2, so you got, I mean, if you want to get nice separation, which this lens does beautifully, has that 3D Zeiss pop to it, you capture it. Great for lower light because it's a faster lens, and it has, since it's a native E-mount in the sense, you have all the abilities to use with the Sony, like the eye tracking, face tracking, all that kind of stuff, autofocusing. It all works beautifully for this. But the lens itself performed admirably. I mean, it's got 9 elements, 8 groups. Its weight's around 300 plus grams, so it's lightweight. You got that distagon design to it, so you can eliminate distortion. Chromatic aberration was 0 to 0 on it. Colors had a nice pop to them, contrast as well. I mean, I really was impressed with this lens, and it's light enough, especially with the Sony A7RIII, that you don't feel like you're carrying a big kit around with you for the entire day. What else about this lens? I want to take out this lens hood for a second, which I'll talk about in a second, because there's one thing I don't like about this camera, it's that. But there's something really unique about this, is that you have the ability to do different focal distances. Now, on an average length, the focal distance is 18 inches, right? Here you can get down to 9+ inches. Case in point, look at this. You've got a switch here on the lens. So full, which is basically your standard lens. Then you can go from infinity to 0.4 meters. Hola! And then 0.5 meters to 0.24 meters, so for your macro. You can get up really close with this lens. Not macro, but semi-macro, right? But it gives you another option to use, which is great because that makes this lens more versatile. And it's not the cheapest lens out there. It's around 1,700, 800 Singapore dollars for this lens alone. So you do get a lot of leeway with this lens. I mean, it actually it's gonna be great for street photography, and especially if you want to shoot subjects as well and get that nice separation. But there's one thing about this lens I don't like, and that's this hood. Now, you see this nice compact design with the Sony A7RIII here. Look at that. Look at that. Looks great. Well balanced, feels good. Then all of a sudden, you put on this lens hood and it becomes a Canon. Now, this becomes a little obscene. It's a little long. And it really takes away from the compactness of this camera. Now, I appreciate that Zeiss wants to protect the lens and the glass. I get it, 100% get it. But here's the thing. When you're walking around the streets, and you're walking around the streets, let's say in Europe, I mean, you got it strapped over your shoulder, you want to go across, you want to go over the shoulder. Here's the thing. This is going to knock people, it's going to hit things, because it's very long, right? This is much more usable. If Zeiss would have made a lens hood that's half the length, right? You still get the protection, you still can, cut out that lens flare if you get any on this, which I never really had. And it's much more usable on the streets. So that's my only complaint on this lens, is the lens hood. If you're looking for a prime lens in that 35 to 50 range for the Sony E-Mount, autofocus, you can do eye tracking, all that kind of stuff, the 40f2 should be on your list. Do want to give you a little point though on the eye tracking. I have noticed with this lens, it works, but it's not 100% accurate, meaning that sometimes you think the eye's in focus, the green box is locked on, you see the image after, didn't quite nail it. Not all the time, happens sometimes, sometimes not. I mean, eye tracking's not 100% anyway, but I found it less so than Sony's native G Master lenses. I do want to point that out. But that's it. It's a solid lens. The Batis lineup is great. Sony E-Mount, you're gonna love it. The 18mm, phenomenal lens to use when you want to capture a wide scene. Now, I was on this the Luis Bridge in Porto, beautiful sight. I captured one image. I think I'm gonna print this and frame it. I was really proud of myself that day because it was crap weather. It was raining, it was drizzling, and then finally at sunset the sun broke out. Captured the image I wanted, sharp from edge to edge. Played with the colors a little bit. Of course, I did some editing, which I'll show you right now. But I love the image. Beautiful, beautiful image. Will go on my wall one day. And it just shows you the optical quality of the Zeiss's. It really is. These are phenomenal lenses. Build quality probably is not the same level as an Otus, but then again, so neither is the price point. So you got to take that in mind. But if you're looking for 30 to 50 in the Sony E-Mount, take a look at this one. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Zeiss Batis 40f2. Let me know your thoughts and comments below if you own the lens, if you're thinking about getting this lens, any questions you have, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, because we love subscribers. We do, we like you guys. We love to hear your comments back. Just don't insult me too much, okay? Follow us on Facebook. Until the next one, take care.